cognac, warm cognac. So I know I got a house full of alcoholics apparently. Hi everyone, I'm Moody Boo and I am back with a list, a top 10 list. And this is kind of in celebration of the holiday season that I celebrate personally, which is Christmas. And it's a family tradition. But I do think this list would be appropriate for any holiday season that you celebrate if it's during cold winter months. So let's just get started. So I wanted to do this visually as well as olfactorily. So what I thought, it's not a story time perfume list, but I just want to give you some visuals of how I came up with this list. I was thinking with the perfumes that I have, what kind of holiday season list I could make. And I thought, let's just go to my Grandma CheeChee's house at Christmas time and kind of talk about the aromas that I would smell going over there when I was young. So the first thing that I usually encountered aroma-wise when I would come to CheeChee's house was her wreath. Sometimes she'd have these beautiful handmade real wreaths, you know, not plastic or anything, that were hanging somewhere on the outside of the house or on the porch or something like that. And I thought, what kind of smells were there in some of those wreaths? One of my favorite wreaths that I remember, I don't remember if it was at CheeChee's or maybe it was one that somebody made where I worked or something, I'm not sure. So, but I want to say it was at CheeChee's, maybe not. Anyway, it was made out of gorgeous eucalyptus branches. And then somebody had taken a bunch of different kind of orange peels, regular orange, tangerine, mandarin oranges, and it seemed like there was another one. And they all are a slightly different shade of orange, and made little flowers out of the peels and had placed them throughout this wreath. So you could smell this wreath before you saw it. It was amazing. And because of that, I had to pick out these two perfumes. And one is Koala by Zoologist, and the other one is Jo Malone Bitter Orange. We'll start with Koala. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about any one of these because you know me, I'm a babbling brook. And if I tell you too much about the perfumes and then talk, it's like going to be an hour long and nobody's got time for that. So I'm just going to do a brief kind of rundown. All right, Koala first. So Koala is eucalyptus and pine trees, citruses, honey, mimosa, black tea, spices, geranium, vetiver, incense, musk, oak moss, sandalwood, amber, and vanilla. This is gorgeous. I actually blind bought this one. I was so impressed with Camel. I just decided his next release, I was just going to pop for it, and this was his next one. I bought it, one of the first bottles off the line directly from his website. And I'm so glad. The more I smell it, the more I love it. It's definitely eucalyptus. You know, I don't get a lot of pine. There's a little bit of kind of an evergreen foresty aroma in the background, but it is a supporting actor for the eucalyptus, in my opinion. Now, there is some sweetness to it. No powderiness that I would suspect from the mimosa. But the honey and the citruses and the spices and some of those earthy notes, yeah. It encompasses, I'm sure, exactly the kind of habitat a koala would be found in. I'm sure all of those notes are very similar. I wouldn't know, I haven't been to Australia. It's a dream, but it's one that's going to have to wait a while. So it's very unisex. It's very aromatic, and it really, it barely is anchored to the ground. This is a perfume that just, to me, looks like it just levitates. It just radiates up and up into the higher elevations of the trees. I mean, it's not so much the forest floor to me as it is more up in the air, but I think part of that is because it blooms. It is gorgeous. And I think it's year round too. I really thought it would be strictly cold weather, but I wore it during summer nights and it was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous. Oh, it's so well made, so well blended, and really beautiful niche kind of a perfume. So that is the eucalyptus and the piney part of the wreath. And then Jo Malone's bitter or orange bitters, excuse me. I flip-flop the words. Orange bitters is such a perfect orange perfume. Now there are like Orange Sanguine by Atelier Cologne. It's right up there too, but I don't know. I'm really digging this one this time of year. It feels more festive than Orange Sanguine. Orange Sanguine is one that feels more summer to me. This one has more to it than that. That gives it a little bit of holiday vibe to me. And it reminds me of those orange peels that were in that wreath. So this is bitter orange, amber, sandalwood, orange, mandarin orange, citruses, and dried plum. And it's just a beautiful orange with that orange peel note in there too. It's the whole shebangy. Oh, it's gorgeous. But it does dry down and you do get some of that sandalwood and amber. It warms up a little bit and becomes a little less tart fruity. Gorgeous, beautiful stuff. So these two are the aromas that remind me of the wreath when I first come to the door for the holidays at my grandmother CheeChee's house. I know, CheeChee, right? Of course, somebody named Boo would have a grandmother named CheeChee. All right, next. So when you first walk into my grandmother's house, you enter the kitchen, usually. That was the door we entered. We didn't enter the main door into the living room. It was always the patio door that led right into the kitchen. This woman could bake. And usually during the holidays, both my grandmothers were in there baking away. So they'd both just be furiously going back and forth, one between one thing and the other. And they're just switching back and forth, not working as a team, mind you. They each had their own thing they were doing. Both of them were amazing bakers. My grandma Bert and my grandma CheeChee. And CheeChee, you know, there'd be all kinds of aromas going on depending on what she was making. If we got there early in the morning, like sometimes we did sunrise service or something like that when I was a kid, she'd be baking some kind of breakfast stuff for us to eat. You know, as soon as we got back, she'd have everything ready to go. And one of the aromas is blueberry muffins that totally remind me of Christmas. And if you're going to talk about blueberry muffins in a perfume, you have to talk about I Love New York for Her by Bond No. 9. Oh, wow. I haven't worn this in a while. It's gorgeous. Oh my God. So this is sweet notes, blueberry, nutmeg, mandarin orange, patchouli, peony, rose, vanilla, leather, sandalwood, and musk. But for me, it's all about that fruity berry. I don't get a lot of nutmeg, but I do get some of the peony, the rose, and the patchouli. I don't really get the leather. There is a hint of it, just a real like light lambskin kind of an aroma in the very deep dry down. That's kind of when you get the sandalwood and the musk too. It doesn't really come in for me until 3 or 4 hours. So, oh my God, it's blueberry muffin all the way with some florals. It's like blueberry muffins being cooked up with a bouquet of fresh cut flowers, peonies and roses sitting there on the dining room table. Gorgeous stuff. And even though it's a pink bottle, it says for her. It's very gourmand, floral. I think a guy could pull this off, or a masculine personality, very easily. You got to be pretty confident because it is a little, I would say on the unisex scale, a little tick to the feminine side. But that's in mind only, really, if you think about it. Love this stuff. Love. Another smell that would be really heavy would be chocolate. Whether that's my mom making fudge in there, because my mom would be in there cooking too once we got there. She'd be elbowing with the 2 grams, you know, and she'd be making her fudge, her amazing fudge. And, you know, just some other kind of chocolates going around the kitchen, you know, prior to everybody eating dinner. You know, there was always some kind of snacks or something to eat. And so I had to put in here Praline number 2 by Nobile 1942, La Petite Chocolatière series. This is so pretty. It's not nearly as nutty as it is chocolatey to me. Oh, it's like I know what it reminds me of. Those candies in Hawaii. It smells like a warm milk chocolate and toasted coconut candy. That's what it smells like. Oh, it's so good. Oh, I'm salivating. So this is coconut, peach, heliotrope, praline, chocolate, tonka bean, vanilla, amber, patchouli, and sandalwood. And I'm telling you, these little bottles are, you know, they're an ounce each. And that chocolatier, I got 3 of them in there, and they're all 3 really good perfumes. This one's just my favorite of the 3. And I think at the time it was like $90 for the 3 of them. So that's a really good deal. I don't know what it is now. It's probably more, but oh, I had to spray it again. Oh, it's one of my favorite gourmands. It is sweet, it's chocolatey, but it's not too much. It doesn't go over the top. It's a total wearable perfume. It's not like you just smeared chocolate chip cookie all over your face. It's not like that. It's much more refined and sophisticated, and it's super well blended. It's beautiful, and it performs really well too. So, and very unisex. Gorge, love. Next. The next aroma reminds me of my grandma Bert, who'd be in CheeChee's kitchen cooking with her along with my mom and Cheech. She made this plum pudding, and it's kind of almost a gingery, kind of a dark breadish kind of a thing, you know. There's brown sugar in it, you know, and there's chunks of dates in it. It's delicious. And then she'd melt brown sugar and butter together to make a caramel sauce to go over the top. Well, as she was cooking it, people would be drinking a hot buttered rum, which is just like rum and honey and brown sugar and spices. They're delish. Smelling that plum pudding being cooked with people drinking hot buttered rums in the kitchen as well. That reminded me so much of Penhaligon's The Ruthless Countess Dorothea. Now I've got the wrong head on there. I think it's supposed to be an owl head maybe or something. I got a cock head because I got it secondhand. It was used. But it's legit. I had samples of it. This wasn't a blind buy. Oh, it has a hint of boozy, just a hint. And it's got this spices and almost ginger and that brown sugar kind of a smell, like the plum pudding being cooked with the hot buttered rum kind of aroma being steaming up from the cup. This is beautiful stuff. This is another perfect holiday perfume in my opinion. Oh, I should tell you what's in it. So this is ginger, cinnamon, bergamot, beeswax, mate, clary sage, white wine. Oh, there is booze in it. Vanilla and cashmerean. And it's not super sweet, but neither is plum pudding. I guess that's why it kind of reminded me of that more than the other desserts. And also because of the ginger and the cinnamon, the honey. That's all plum pudding and hot buttered rums for sure. So gorgeous stuff, very unisex. Even though it says Countess, that has nothing to do with who can wear this perfume. It's gorgeous. Really performs well too. So, all right. The Ruthless Countess Dorothea by Penhaligons. Next one. Oh, tasting it too. Why do I always eat my perfumes? I guess I want to experience them fully, apparently. Next. Now I'm making my way out of the kitchen and into the hallway that leads to the living room. It's a really wide hallway it was. Very old school, traditional family. That's where you'd find the men. My dad, my grandpas, all sitting around there. And they'd usually have something to drink as well. And one of them always would be drinking a beer. So, and as you go down that hallway, there was a kind of a long dining room table that sat there with her phone. And she always had flowers. She was such a gardener. Whether she had to go to the flower shop for it being off season or whether she clipped them from her own flower garden. But she always had flowers, something smelling beautiful in that hallway as you walk down. So that combination of flowers and beer, because my dad always had a beer. And usually it was a cold beer. But if we just had arrived, it hadn't had a chance to get cold, because usually he'd buy it on the way. It may not be cold. He'd put it in the fridge. But that didn't mean he was going to wait for it to get cold. Pop that top. Well, that reminds me, between the flowers and my dad's warm beer, Mancera's Roses Vanille. It smells like beer. And it wasn't even me who figured that out. I love this stuff. It was my husband. I can't wear it around him, because he's not crazy about the smell of beer. And he was like, have you been drinking beer? And I was like, no. He's like, you smell like beer. And I was like, what? So I went and checked this out. And as soon as he said that, I was like, yep, it smells like beer. And I haven't really worn it since, but that doesn't mean I don't love it still. I just can't think of an occasion to wear it, because I'd be worried if he was so quick to smell beer. And if I smell beer, now that he says that, I'd be worried somebody would think I spilled a warm beer on me. So I haven't worn it. Oh, but I love it. Even with that beer note, I love it. So this is lemon, water, rose, sugar, vanilla, sugar, white musk, and cedar. I don't know why there's sugar twice there. I guess it's in the middle notes and the deep dry down. And see, I've talked about this before, but the sugar note has a hint of tartness, a little bit of tang to it, the ones that I've smelled that are a sugar note. And I'm thinking that sugar note with a tang mixed with the rose, maybe, and I don't know, the aquatic notes to make it smell like beer, but it smells like beer. And I went on Fragrantica, and other people had mentioned that they smelled beer as well, or somebody had told them that it smelled like beer. So there is that, but it's still beautiful. Very unisex, you know? So, and it really performs well too. But I'm bummed because I just don't wear it anymore. And so this reminds me of my dad drinking a beer as I'm walking down that hallway to the living room. Next. Somebody would, my dad would be drinking a beer. Somebody would always be having a cognac or a warm brandy or something like that as well. And so I had to put Krigler's established cognac in here for that, because it's one of the best hard boozy kind of perfumes out there, in my opinion, that I have experienced. Oh, it's so gorgeous. So this is cognac, oak, caramel, red apple, and marigold. I don't get the marigold. The red apple and the caramel just adds this sweetness to that cognac, that woody cognac, to give it this almost brandy and cognac kind of a vibe after it's been aged in an oak barrel, a really well used oak barrel. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I think it's one of the best boozy perfumes out there, honestly. It's spendy, but it's kind of worth it. Oh, Lord, it's good. It's not a light boozy. Some of the boozy perfumes that I have are on the lighter side. This is not that. I mean, it's not a beast mode perfume. 2 sprays, it does project pretty well for me. And it lasts, for a boozy perfume, it lasts well. It lasts about 8 hours. So that's pretty good. Pretty good. And it's gorgeous. Very unisex. Did I say that all right? Huh. So, yeah. That's my cognac, warm cognac. So I know I got a house full of alcoholics, apparently. So let's move into the living room farther, shall we? So when you first come into the living room, and I've just passed my dad and my grandfather who are drinking warm cognac and a warm beer, there's a fireplace right there. And so I thought there's always a fire going on in there at the holidays. So that blazing fire and a little bit of smoke in there emanating from the fireplace reminded me a little bit of the Merchant of Venice Mystic Incense. And look at the bottle. I always say that, but I like the bottle. Oh, wow. Yes, definitely. This is a very incensey, spicy, smoky, pencil shaving kind of a perfume. And when you hear the notes, you'll be surprised. It is powdery and it is dry, and it's not sweet, in my opinion. And the notes are caramel, salt, dried fruits, incense, white woods, cacao, and incense. I get no caramel, I get no cacao, I get no dried fruits. I get the salt, the incense, the dried woods. That's what I get. It's like the fire has been going for a little while, but they used really dry wood to burn. The Merchant of Venice prices are really good on this. I think a lot of people will think this is more masculine than on the feminine side, and I agree. There is no big trajectory to it. It stays that dry wood being burned, incensey, spicy, pencil shaving kind of an aroma. So that's Merchant of Venice. Performance isn't great on this. It's not as good as some of my other winter perfumes, but it's all right. Price was good. All right, next. So now we've finally entered the main space of the living room. And in the corner, there's this huge, beautiful Christmas tree. So she always had a beautiful tree. It was always as big as she could get in that space. And the smells of it were amazing. So for this Christmas tree, I chose Chris Collins' Dance Sauvage and Enchanted Forest by Vagabond Prince to represent the tree. It would have 100 lights just twinkling all around it. It would have lots of little tinsel dripping off of several of its branches. It would have these big Christmas balls and small Christmas balls that had glitter and looked metallic, just adorning the whole outside of the tree. And usually with a big, huge, gorgeous, glittery star on top. Gorgeous tree. I always love to just sit there next to it and look at the lights and how the tinsel would reflect back on some of those lights. So it just looked like little icicles all over the tree. It was magical for me. So we'll start with Dance Sauvage. Dance Sauvage is cognac, plum, saffron, pepper, nutmeg, chili pepper, rose, cedar, amber, patchouli, agarwood, and vanilla. And this is just this warm wood perfume for me. It's like just a hint of sweet, just a hint of boozy, warm woods, warm cedar. It's gorgeous. It is so pretty. Oh, it has a hint of brightness to it like a Christmas tree would have. It's got that rich, warm cedar note in there that just makes my head spin. And then just a hint of boozy, almost like one of my grandfathers that was drinking the cognac walked over to me to say hi and then walked back to speak to my dad again. It's like that, but it's so beautiful. It's probably one of my all-time favorite woody scents. Oh, Lord, it's gorgeous. So, and performance is wonderful. I think it's completely unisex too. The other part, besides just the wood of the trees, you need to have the pine needles and all of the rest of the aromas that come with having a Christmas tree. And that's Enchanted Forest by Vagabond Prince. Oh my God, it's gorgeous. It's so pretty. That's what I'm wearing, so. Oh, it's this forest berries and it's green pine trees And it almost smells like there's some ferns in there too. And it's slightly sweet. It almost is a hint boozy. And it's very foresty. It's so well named. I just, oh. So it's hawthorn and aldehydes, black currant, coriander, vetiver, honeysuckle, carnation, rose, balsam fir, cedar, oak moss, apopanax, cyan benzoin, patchouli, vanilla, amber, and musk. But I already told you what I get. I don't get a lot of florals. I get the woods, all the earthy notes, and the berries. That's mainly what I get. And this is a perfect holiday perfume in my opinion. It's a perfect winter perfume in my opinion. This is a desert island perfume. It's just one of the best in its category ever. So I just think it's stunning. And it performs like crazy. Very unisex. Gorgeous, gorgeous perfume. So there you go. You took a little trip with me through my Grandma CheeChee's house during the holidays when I was a kid. So thank you for that. I actually had a lot of really happy memories doing this video. Yeah, it was good times over at her house. So, all right. Well, I hope you all have a happy holiday season, no matter when you celebrate it or what you celebrate it. I hope it's safe and loving for everybody out there. So thank you for being here and supporting so much this year. I just really, truly appreciate it. And I will probably be back before the end of the year, but in case I'm not, I will see you soon. And I have a lot more planned and a lot more to finish up beginning of 2021. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell and comment. Only if you want, and if you don't, it's all good, I still love you. Use your own nose. Peace.